I didn't prepare a speech. I was hoping just to have a conversation. I am going to leave some campaign material here though that with you, if you'd like to have a look at it. Share it with members, that's fine with me. But basically, I'm a passionate advocate for both kids and public education, and have been that my entire life. Aside from the summer jobs and the student work that I did, I first started working professionally at 16 as a student employment officer. I moved from that to be a youth employment officer and then a manager for the program, and I also manage a re-entry program for women. I then moved on to do community development work, which was investments by the federal government in communities, primarily First Nations communities, and I had responsibility for Northwestern Ontario, so I spent a lot of time in fly-in reserves. I went from that community development work, and somebody then tried to recruit me, and they actually, after a bit of time, convinced me to go to Toronto. So I went to Toronto to work at our regional office, and at our regional office I was responsible for labour market development programs for all of Ontario. I did the federal provincial negotiations on behalf of the federal government on direct purchase and training. So that's when the federal government used to purchase seats at Cambridge College, Boreal, all the colleges, for adult retraining programs. And around apprenticeship training, I had responsibility for apprenticeship training, the federal component of it, which is primarily income support through the province of Ontario. I eventually made a decision that it was time to, I also spent, and during that period of 15 years in Toronto, I spent 1 year at national headquarters in Hull, Ottawa, Place Portage, doing a federal study on overlap and duplication of federal provincial programs, primarily labor market programs, as they relate to entry into the labor market of youth and student transitional programs from secondary and post-secondary to the labor market. That was my focus. After a number of years, 15 years in Toronto and a year at national headquarters, I realized that was too far away from family, and I was too far away from where I originally got into the business, which was public service and helping kids and helping people. And I realized for myself, wasn't feeding my soul anymore. I was too long dealing in the policy element, and it was time to come home to roots.
1 minute.
So I decided to come back to Sudbury. And at that point, I had a niece and a nephew, 2 nephews, one who was in JK, one at grade 3, was the first year to be grade 3 EQA tested, grade 6, first grade 6 years for EQA testing, and I decided to get involved. And I've not regretted it. So I will say after 20 years of being involved as a trustee for the Rainbow Board, I'm not a critic of the board. I'm a champion of the board, and I will continue to be that way regardless of what happens with this election. I also need you to know there's one other person running against me. I think one of the things I want to talk about to distinguish us, my roots, of both my own personal roots and my family, are in the wards, are in New Sudbury, Garson, Falconbridge Gate. I was raised in New Sudbury. I attended Colonel David Younger in Nesbitt and LaSalle. My sister attended Colonel David Younger Churchill in LaSalle. Our kids then attended Robert Jack in Northeastern in Garson. I was a homeowner when I returned to Sudbury to be closer to family in Garson, so I owned my own home in Garson for the last 18 years. So my roots are definitely in those sections of the ward. As a trustee, my involvement is not just at committee levels, and I've been on and chair most of the committees, but my real contribution, and I hope I will look at my fellow trustees for agreement, is involvement at the schools. I spend a lot of time in the schools. So I would really appreciate your support, and I'd be happy to leave information for you, including contact information where you can look up election material. Thank you.
Thank you.